I want to tell you guys how July 4th became the unofficial day to begin work on a canal in the United States. I'm just here to connect ya, and then I'll be on my way. So I want to start this off by, shouting out a member of the Continental Congress, Governor Morris. He said, "The proudest empire in Europe is but a bubble compared to what America will be, must be, in the course of 2 centuries." And he was one of the first people to say, we gotta go westward, and one of the best ways to do that is with a waterway cutting through New York State and linking up with the Great Lakes. And in the early 1800s, after we had earned our freedom and fought for our freedom from the British, it was really tough to get out west. There was a guy by the name of DeWitt Clinton. Here's his picture. This is what the guy looked like. And he made it his mission to organize a canal that went from the Hudson River on the east side of New York State to the Great Lakes, which would open up the West. That canal would have to be 363 miles long, which was 2.5 times longer than the longest canal in the world at that point, which was in France. But not only that, Lake Erie of the Great Lakes was 500 feet taller than what the Hudson River was, right? So that means that it wasn't just a straight shot. You couldn't just build a canal and expect the water to flow freely. You had to make locks. So what a lock is basically the barge goes into an area where you isolate it from the 2 sections of canal, right? You can see the barge in the upper right-hand corner there, and then you see it being blocked off, and then the water levels lower or raised depending on which side of the lock you are, and then you open up the other side and you can go out freely. So this is how you change the water level when you're doing that. And they needed to make 83 locks over 363 miles. So you could understand why people would be like, "Clinton, you're crazy." But he became the governor in 1817, the governor of New York State. And on July 4th, he broke ground for the Erie Canal. He's like, if there's any day to do it, it's July 4th. He got going on the Erie Canal in 1817 on July 4th, and many people just kept criticizing Clinton. DeWitt Clinton, you're not gonna do this. You suck. They called it Clinton's Ditch. Look at that face. That's a determined man right there. But he had to push back the date 2 years. He wanted it done by 1823. He had to push it back to 1825, and in 1823, he lost the governorship. Those guys, they said, "You know what, DeWitt, we're out, we're done. You lose. You're never gonna finish this thing." But even when he wasn't the governor of New York State, he kept going. And he finished the canal, organizing it all. He finished it in 1825. And the people were like, "Wow, okay." And then they elected him governor again in 1825, and he was the governor until he died in 1828. So that man basically lived for the canal. It was a great success. It took off. And basically how they would do it was they would pull barges with mules. As you can see here, that barge down there in the right-hand corner and those mules. And here's another picture here with the mules pulling the barges. And in order to save money, they would have to build their bridges really, really low. As you can see here in the lower left-hand corner, that bridge isn't very far off of the canal at all. So they had to build them 7 feet above the canal. And they made it a thing where you had to duck when you went under these things, or you'd be swept off and overboard, So you had to be really careful, and you would shout out, "Low bridge, everybody down," and then you duck and continue on your way safely. But it was such a big success. They made thousands, millions of dollars through tolls on this thing, and then everybody else wanted to do it too, because all the critics, they were like, "Oh, you'll never do that." But then when it worked and it was making a ton of money, then all the states wanted to do it. I mean, look at this map. This map, you know, they were doing canals through Pennsylvania, through Ohio, in Maryland, in Virginia, all the way out to Illinois. They were doing the canals to connect the West. Every time one of those other states would start a canal, they did it on July 4th. Then when the railroad came along, all of the other canals started failing, and the Erie Canal continued to succeed. Even when there were canals that were built longer than the Erie Canal was the most successful in America. And now I'm gonna play you the Erie Canal folk song that I grew up with, because I'm from the area where the Erie Canal went through in the Rochester, New York area. Let me pull up that map here. So if you look there, Rochester, right below Lake Ontario, I'm from about 30 minutes south. We all sang this song. So here it is. Here's the Erie Canal. I got a mule and her name is Sal, 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker and a good old pal, 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Yeah, we hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay. And we know every inch of the way from Albany to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, we're coming to a town. You always know your neighbor and you always know your pal if you ever navigated down the Erie Canal. Yeah, you bet your life I never part with Sal, 15 miles on the Erie Canal. 'Cause she's a good old worker and a good old pal, 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Get up there, mule, here comes a lark. We'll be in Rome about 6 o'clock. One more trip and back we'll go, right back home to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, we're coming to a town. You always know your neighbor and you always know your pal if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Yeah, you always know your neighbor and you always know your pal if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal.